Welcome back to Event Explorer, the show where we uncover the stories behind the world's most exciting and inspiring festivals and events. Today we are heading to East London in the UK, one of the most exciting cultural hubs in the world, known for its unique mix of global influence and strong Londoner identity. Now, I've been looking forward to speaking with Juliet Kennedy, the founder and director of the Brick Lane Jazz Festival. Her work has created a festival that reflects the sound, the energy, and the creativity coming out of East London's scene. It's a curated mix of jazz, hip hop, neo soul, electronic, and more, all shaped by a collaborative spirit and deep community roots. Since it began in 2022, the festival has grown from a local idea into a multi-venue experience that shines a light on emerging talent and brings together some of the most forward-thinking artists in the UK and beyond. This year's Brick Lane Jazz Festival takes place April 25th through the 27th, 2025, across the Truman Brewery and nearby venues in East London. Today we'll talk about Juliet's journey, the evolution of the festival, and why the music coming out of this scene deserves your full attention. Now, if you're new to Event Explorer, please reach out on Instagram or to Daniel at eventexp.org and let us know your thoughts about the episode and any suggestions you have for future guests or festivals we should cover. And while you're here, please review and subscribe on the platform you're listening to this episode on. All right, now let's get into the conversation. Okay, welcome back to Event Explorer. Today I am joined by Juliet Kennedy, founder and director of Brick Lane Jazz Festival and creative director of music venues for Truman Brewery. With a background as a musician, festival producer, and venue programmer, she's created a festival which is a dynamic celebration of London's underground jazz scene. Since 2021, it's expanded from 4 venues to 12 stages, showcasing boundary-pushing artists across jazz, hip-hop, neo-soul, and more. Under her leadership, the festival has partnered with Jazz Refreshed and Tomorrow's Warriors, building a vital platform for emerging musical talent across London and the world. Juliet, welcome to Event Explorer. I'm excited to share your journey and dig into this year's festival.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction.
I try to do my research, and the more I dig into your story, it's just so cool. So, I really appreciate speaking with you today. This is the Brick Lane is something that is born out of your passion and your interest and your connections and the community you saw in East London and the jazz scene and bringing attention to it. You've gained great recognition just in a few years I've seen #1 Jazz Fest in some outlets and Time Out named you as the second best festival in London. These are great achievements to get within just a couple years. So there's obviously some fans of what you're doing. Let's just dig into kind of the early days and learn a little bit more about you, Juliet. You've had a great career as a musician, working in festivals. I've seen you're a DJ as well yourself. Now you're leading Brick Lane Festival, and this has become all-encompassing. You're working year-round on this now and moving it out of just London. Did you have some kind of formative experiences in festivals or throwing events or parties that led you to, I can do this. Let's do this. Let's put this together.
Well, it's funny you asked that because I had lots of experience working at other people's festivals and plenty of experience programming events and venues, smaller events in smaller venues. But there was definitely a slight element of panic after I'd curated the lineup on year 1. I was suddenly like, oh my God, I'm organizing a festival. This is really stepping it up. And we definitely learned a lot from year 1, put it that way. We're definitely a lot better at it now going into year 4 than we were starting out. But yeah, I guess like anything, you sort of you learn on the ground, don't you? Start it and then you just kind of learn how to do it as you go along, or at least that's always my philosophy.
Sure. These early festivals that you were working at, was this just fell into the job, or was this friends that were in the business, or how did you kind of land in this weird world that we work in?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was not shy of a party. I did enjoy being at a festival. Was always very passionate about music, and yeah, it did happen that a lot of my friends worked in events and were pursuing careers as like yourself as producers. And I kind of fell into the festival world that way, just wanting to be at all the festivals and realizing that it was quite expensive to go to them all if I wasn't working at them. So I thought I'd enjoy the perks of a crew wristband as well, which
Sure.
always lends a better experience.
Yeah, to see that perspective is kind of addictive too. You're like, you don't, you can't just sit in the crowd anymore. Sometimes, if you get that bug in you, that's like, oh, wait, can't we just go backstage? Or I know there's an, I know there's another perspective. Cool. So through growing up, I imagine in your kind of developing this taste of East London in the jazz. Did you grow up in the area, in the Brick Lane area, or was this kind of a found home for you?
It's a found home for me, but since I was like the day I left school, I moved pretty much to East London. So, without giving away too much, Daniel, I've been there a long time. Suffice it to
Sure.
say, yeah, all of my adult life, I've been in East London. It's just kind of the most buzzing, bubbling area in London. Definitely the most like creative quarter of the city. So I was just drawn to it like a moth to a light, and haven't really ever looked back.
Yeah, London is obviously, I think there's a cool duality unique to London that it's both, very international city. It's a crossroads of the world, but is also fiercely distinct. Definitely has a few personalities. Everyone's got their perception of it, but I imagine that must have a huge impact on jazz and on neo soul, R&B, all the kind of melange of music that you are curating and looking at here. Influences, different cultures, reshaping and stuff like. How do you see London's unique mix kind of shape how jazz is created, or how you're defining the genre of music that you wanted to pursue with Brick Lane?
Yeah, well, I think a huge part of the sound is the multiculturalism of London. It's the most multicultural city, and I don't know. It definitely feels like that applies very much to East and Southeast London. I don't know West London all that well, so I can't really make that claim a fact. But it certainly feels like there's a lot of diasporas here, and that definitely taps into the sound. And just it creates a really kind of new, unique sound actually that I've got to know more and more through curating it. I'm realizing that there's this kind of identifiable London sound, and or I should say sort of UK sound, but it really is, the heart of it is in the capital. There's just such a huge community of artists creating this sound, and they're from so many diasporas. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
You think that's kind of this organic mix that's just bubbled up from residents and from the feel of this East London neighborhood and scene?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, the other thing about jazz is that it's highly collaborative. So
Mhm.
these artists are all working together and producing stuff together. Quite often, it's not even clear who's written a song. It's just like a big, massive list of artists that kind of collaborated on it, and they're all playing in each other's groups. Yeah, it is kind of coincidental in that sense.
And the other piece of that, we're talking about the city, but then even on a more micro scale. And what I think is really cool about what you're doing is you're shining a light on venues that display this type. I live in Detroit, Michigan. You could read the books of all the great jazz musicians that come from here, but there's probably only 3, 4 clubs in a whole city of a couple million people that you could go see jazz in, and it does take a commitment to supporting that. A lot of people that they have these old perceptions of jazz
Mm.
without realizing how much they probably like it, or how progressive it can be, or how there are so many different styles that you will find one you like. So we need like a festival, we need a platform for this, but also we need venues. Um, What's that scene like on a weekend night for jazz and neo soul and hip hop and things like that? Is it just kind of, is the festival something that bubbled up from you saying, if we could combine all these things into one strong weekend, we could bring all these fans together and really shine a light on something that you recognized as special? Like, what part do venues play a part in your festival?
Mm. Well, there's quite a few things to touch on there. So first of all, like
Yeah.
the genres, what we call jazz today, really kind of incorporates all those genres. In the UK at least, it's jazz is definitely not, like you said, what people have this traditional perception of it being. anymore. So we almost shouldn't have called ourselves a jazz festival. We should have just called ourselves Brick Lane Festival. The music is what we're calling jazz. A lot of my friends who aren't involved as much in the scene would kind of be like, oh, it's all jazz. And they think of that as a kind of shuffle drums. But
Sure.
it's really not. There's a lot of like you said, hip hop, rap, neo soul, broken beat, just loads of different like electronic music, which we all call jazz because it's the boundaries have all blurred and it's all just evolved into one big kind of bubble of sound. And the venues, yeah, they play a huge role. Actually, like the jazz clubs in London are all quite kind of disparate. They're not all in one location, but we've got quite a few great music venues in East London. The only one that kind of might call itself a jazz club at times is 91 Living Room, which is at the Truman Brewery. But even that sort of it's a grey area whether it is strictly a jazz club in the same way that like Ronnie Scott's or somewhere like that is. Again, maybe it's an East London thing. Like everything's just a little bit more fluid and sort of boundaryless, just a bit like the genre itself. So yeah, we've got some amazing venues here. Our main stage is at Village Underground, which is this kind of iconic East London brick warehouse, which is just really brilliant and sort of epic and spectacular during live shows. And we host like really, really fun after parties there as well. And we've got the Jazz Club 91 Living Room, and we've got some other really nice DJ stages, several more live stages in the area, Rich Mix, Juju's Bar. It definitely activates all these sort of venues as jazz clubs for the weekend, but they're showcasing all sorts of music throughout the year. Excuse me.
So this, so even for your local, oh no worries. So even for your local crowd, you were transforming venues into platforms for music that they may not be familiar with as well.
Um, we're sort of activating. Yeah, I mean, there's for example like a nightclub 93 Feet East, which is known really well for its dance music nights. It's like a big rave venue, but we'll have world-class jazz musicians playing sets there over the weekend, and it works so well. They've got such a nice sound system, as it turns out, for jazz. So
No.
they were kind of surprised year one, like a jazz festival at this nightclub. What's this going to be like? But another thing about Brick Lane Jazz Festival is that all of our audiences are standing. So again, it's just like putting to bed that traditional idea of jazz, like dinner jazz. It's just absolutely not that. So all of our audiences are standing. The venues are packed to the rafters at every show. So these traditional sort of grimy nightclubs love it. They do really
Sure.
well. The bar does really well.
Yeah, exactly. You get thirsty with all the dancing in the room too, and I think that's something that people need to experience. Kind of growing up in I'm let's not date ourselves, but in the 90s, early 2000s, and in the spirit of concerts, maybe it's a US thing, but I think it's kind of global. Is dancing is kind of like become an underground almost. Like, yeah, a lot of people just go to concerts and stand around, but there's something about, and it's not, jazz wasn't seen as party music kind of for a while. It was originally, and then it went away, and like we were
Was
talking, this
originally.
austere, yeah.
Exactly.
And if you're in a club or you're in a room and people are just going at it for jazz, it's like that energy is unmatched because there's a live creativity. They're like, as you said, they're not just playing, a chart that's finished start to finish and you can sing along, but everything that's going to happen. And here's the guitar solo. It's like anything could happen. And I think that incorporated into the idea of a festival that you could go from stage to stage and experience that is really cool. And you must hear great things from people that have had this experience that's kind of novel or new to them.
People love the gig hopping. They don't realize how close all these venues are. They're all part of this big site called the Truman Brewery, which it used to be the biggest brewery in Europe. It hasn't brewed beer for about 50 years. But it hosts a lot of these venues. Like there's a kind of festival strip where they're less than like a minute's walk from each other, so you really can just go gig hopping, and that makes it quite unique. It is really fun, definitely.
Okay, that sounds amazing. So yeah, from a attendee perspective, what's the weekend like? Is it you get your tickets or your wristband and then you can hop around, and that's by design so that people don't have to be familiar with an artist to go appreciate or experience something new?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can just gig hop your weekend away. Excuse me, I'm shifting a cold. You can gig hop the weekend away, really. And I think a lot of people that do come have heard of the artists, But there's also certainly a chunk of people who just think, hey, jazz festival, that sounds fun. And they're probably the ones that are quite surprised by what they discover there in terms of the artists that are playing. So yeah, as a wristband holder, you can go to all the gigs, subject to capacity of the venues, but there'll always be space somewhere. And we kind of stagger the lineup so that if you don't get into one show, you can make it over to another venue for another one. And the shows start around lunchtime and end kind of 10ish, and then there's DJs and a couple of raucous after parties as well.
So, yeah, sounds amazing. Um, so as you said, a platform for audiences to experience new things, but this is also you've had made a commitment and you're working with Tomorrow's Warriors, who I'm now becoming familiar with as pushing to keep the jazz scene building and growing and giving opportunities. And then Jazz Refreshed as well. Like, how have these partnerships come about? And then what kind of impact do you think, or is the festival having on the scene itself? What can a festival contribute to help a scene grow or sustain or bring new artists forward?
Yeah, well, when I started this festival, I was kind of a newbie to the scene. I'd opened this jazz club, 91 Living Room, and I was like, this is amazing. So even kind of surprised myself at how much amazing music was coming out of London that I hadn't known about previously. And then I had the idea to start this festival, and but I was very aware that I was a newbie, so I did my research, and I was just like, who's been doing this? Who's put in the work? Who's like laid the ground for me to be able to like celebrate and introduce this genre to all these people that don't know it on a bigger scale? And it was just clearly Tomorrow's Warriors, Jazz Refreshed are behind the scene and have been since its kind of explosion. And before then as well. They're just absolutely amazing people and such like incredible platforms, and I feel so lucky to have them as my partners at the festival. So they both run their own stage. They are artist incubators. So Tomorrow's Warriors will start there because it kind of takes artists from even earlier in life, from when they're sort of school kids, and it has an amazing space in the South Bank, which I'm not sure your listeners will actually have heard of, but it's this really cool place in London where we have a lot of like theatre and culture, and they train young musicians, young talented people in jazz who might not have otherwise been able to receive that training through lack of privilege. And they're responsible for kind of like everyone who's anyone in the jazz scene, anyone who's like wow and like made any kind of achievement. They've almost always been through Tomorrow's Warriors. And once they are an emerging talent out on the scene as adults, anyone who is anyone has definitely played Jazz Refreshed, who are my other partners. So they are a record label and a charity, and they have this weekly showcase at 91 Living Room where it's just the coolest night. You go and you just see who's producing amazing music, and it's every single week. And they've got a record label. They produce records with these guys as well, who they are championing, and it's very much on the emerging kind of spectrum. So these guys are like launching these artists into the spotlight. As Ezra Collective, who actually won the Mercury Prize this year, they spoke in their acceptance speech about they met at a youth club, and that youth club was Tomorrow's Warriors. So that's kind of a win for all of us, really. Ezra Collective winning the Mercury this year. So yeah, amazing partners, amazing to have them with me.
So yeah, making a international impact from the groundwork that's being laid by these organizations is, I mean, it's incredible, and it's changing how we're defining pop music or whatever mainstream. That a Mercury Prize takes things that were indie and makes them mainstream. So It's amazing work that they're doing as well with you. And so I saw that from Brick Lane now, where you've done events in Manchester, and you're looking at Paris and even the Barbican in London, so like some bigger venues. So you are now Brick Lane, and you and the team are pushing outside of even your own boundaries and using the festival name or being able to use this organization to push the music into broader audiences. How do you see that kind of expanding in the future? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's fun. We just decided to spread our wings this year. We just were like, let's do this like year round and take it to new places. And like I said earlier, like the heart of this scene is definitely in London. There's no denying that, but it is a UK jazz scene. And there's huge like pockets of amazing emerging talent coming out of different different cities around the country, sorry.
Mhm.
So we've only been to a few of them, and I'm looking forward to just keeping on tour and going to more of them. We had an amazing time in Glasgow. There's a huge jazz scene there. We made it to Manchester, Bristol. We've got Brighton this weekend. Yeah, it's been really great, and I think it's important for us to kind of like to do that as well, and making a name for ourselves as the
Yeah.
ambassador of this genre. Um, so I think it's important to acknowledge that there's loads of stuff going on outside London, and to celebrate that as well, and to come and like put our feet down in these places.
So are you seeing, even in this explosion now, that there's these name festivals or things that are more rock or pop or have been in the past, but are you seeing this progress, a growing audience here that you think you'll be continuing to expand and we'll be seeing kind of the programming that you're coordinating on even larger stages throughout the UK festival scene and becoming part of this larger voice of London? I mean, it seems like it. That's great.
Absolutely, it's already there. It's sort of like these artists that are playing with us are already playing at loads of other mainstream festivals.
Sure.
So it's already happened, I would say. It's really exciting. Yeah, it's an amazing feeling to be part of like a movement that is just kind of meteorically exploding at the moment, and to really believe in it as well. I don't sort of just feel like it's a whim, it's a trendy thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's the music is just incredible, and it feels very current and very relevant, and it's just cool to be part of that, really.
I love it. So, we are looking to to get the message out there. I saw that there's an awesome Spotify playlist that has a bunch of the artists. I don't want you to pick favorites, but when you're looking towards this year's festival, are there particular artists you're excited about, or you are just excited to see now at Brick Lane, and some maybe returning artists that have really become kind of part of the festival too?
We don't actually have many returning artists. We try and keep the lineup really fresh every year, and there are
Love it.
just so many that it kind of works that we can do that. Probably in a few years' time, we'll have to start recycling a few names. But must-see performances, obviously, Adi Oasis coming over from the States, Madison McFerrin. There's a really cool rapper called Diley who I've wanted to book for years. We finally got it together this year. Laraji, absolute legend, 81 years old, doesn't tour anymore, but we've managed to convince him to make the flight over, so that'll be amazing. God, I could just keep going. There's a cool new ensemble called Flock, which has a kind of all-star lineup from the UK jazz scene. Bex Birch, Sarathi Kaur, Tamara Osborne, Elijah Fox is playing. So those are all kind of the big names. But then on the emerging talent kind of spectrum, there's so many that I could talk about as well. There's Ari Tugi. They are coming down from Glasgow, all 10 of them, to open the festival on Friday night, which will be amazing. Audrey Pound from Australia. She's really a really exciting artist, and she's been doing lots of cool collaborations recently. Sans Soucis, Oreglo, Rico, Mauricio Osu. God, I could just,
Go on.
I could go on and on. There's so many.
Well,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, obviously, you have put in the time and your passion into creating Brick Lane, and you and the team are making it into something that's unique. I can just imagine the vibe and just the smiles on people's faces and the kind of joy that you're creating, and also, inspiring thought and inspiring people. And I think that's a big thing about what a festival can do. Have you seen collaborations spark from Brick Lane that have gone on to make new music and things like that?
I mean, surely, yeah. I'm sure that there are.
Sure.
It's a very collaborative festival, which is quite nice actually. Gary Crosby from Tomorrow's Warriors pointed out, he was like, the artists are really touchable at Brick Lane Jazz Festival, and it's true because of the proximity of the venues and because of the collaborative nature of the genre. The artists are kind of like running from venue to venue as well, because they've got to play in all the different bands and get to sound checks and stuff. So you're very much kind of witnessing how collaborative it is, and I'm sure plenty of cool new projects have sparked from it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's a bit of a festival for the artists as well.
It's a community event. It really is. Yeah. You get to see everyone, say hi.
I love that. Well, Juliet, this has been amazing. I think the festival is just so cool, and it's opened my ears and musical catalog to a few new artists, which I'm already loving. So, encourage everyone that isn't in London for the upcoming festival to investigate the playlist and follow you on social, so that next year or they change their plans and start making their plans towards Brick Lane for an amazing um, weekend in East London. So that's April 25th through 27th this year,
That is right.
kicking off with an amazing performance on that Friday. So, get a wristband, hop between venues, discover new artists, make some new favorites and some new friends. I mean, it's awesome. It's so cool and such a different vibe, and such a cultural celebration of a scene that is just going to explode, and you're a part of it. So very cool, very cool. I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel.
That wraps up another episode of Event Explorer. A huge thanks to Juliet Kennedy for sharing her story and the spirit behind Brick Lane Jazz Festival. If you're in or around London this spring, don't miss the chance to be part of it. This festival runs April 25th through the 27th across 12 incredible venues in the Brick Lane section of East London. Grab a wristband, discover new music, and experience the pulse of East London's underground jazz scene in person for yourself. And wherever you are, check out the official Brick Lane Jazz Festival playlist on Spotify to immerse yourself in the sounds of this year's lineup and discover a bunch of new artists. I know that I've added a few to my favorites list already. For more conversations with creators like Juliet and to go behind the scenes of the world's most exciting events, follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn and drop me an email, daniel@eventexp.org, and let me know what you thought of this episode. It'd be great to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Daniel Roth. Happy exploring.